Okay, so today's topic is how to get a slow paying accounts to actually pay their bill. Let me very just quickly introduce myself. I'm Brad McDaniel. Been a cash flow specialist for about 3 years now. Work with hundreds of companies and pretty much every larger industry: medical, dental, property management, banks, blue collar, white collar, colleges, all kinds of stuff. So I've got a pretty broad breadth of experience here. Tell you a tad about Transworld if you're not familiar with us. I've been around about 40 plus years, 50,000 clients nationwide, got an office in pretty much every major city. We've been rated by a lot of the third party groups out there, about like Forbes, Fortune, Barron, some of those guys, basically saying that we're the number one cash flow management company in the nation. Not only do we tend to bring in about 3 to 5 times as much as billing companies or collection agencies or some of the other accounts receivable solutions out there, but we tend to do it for a fraction of the price. And I'm going to show you how we do that and why we're kind of the chosen one in just a moment. Some of our clients, at least just kind of the bigger clients, we're used by Citibank, FedEx, AT&T, ServiceMaster, Enterprise, big companies, all the way down to small mom and pops, doctors right there in probably on your street, honestly, plumbers, lawn boys that can't get people to pay their bill. We kind of work with the entire gamut of large and small companies and everybody in between. We find that most companies, when we first start talking to them, they have what you might call a two-stage approach to collections. That is, stage one is what you might call in-house efforts, where sending out bills, a past due letter, maybe somebody has got enough time to sit and maybe call some of the people and tell them they're past due. And that's kind of all they can do is letters, phone calls, maybe a certified mail. Maybe that's something else they can do. Dartnell Institute says that when you track that, it ends up being somewhere between about $5 to $7 each month per account. When you look at labor and postage and chasing down files and talking back and forth to people and leaving voicemails and all that kind of stuff. Maybe a little bit higher for you, maybe a little bit lower, but that's kind of a good average. I've used a billing company. It's about the same. So anyways, when you're looking at the two-stage approach, the first stage is, let's see if we can collect this money ourselves. Second stage, at some point, maybe it's 120 days, maybe it's 9 months, but they turn on some kind of hardball collection agency or a lawyer or something and try to kind of play tough with stubborn accounts. Well, the American Collection Association says that the typical agency is bringing in somewhere between about 7 to 15% in medical, as this slide here shows. And then in general business, you'll see somewhere between 10 to 15 maybe. It's just a tad higher. Sometimes you'll see up to 20, but it's still not really much. And then, of course, they're going to want a third of whatever they collect as well. And so there you go. There's a two-stage approach. So if you don't mind, let me poke some holes in the two-stage approach. Not that it doesn't work, because it's been working up to this point, but we've realized that there's a much better way to bring in your money, a much better system. So let's look at stage one for a second. So here's kind of the big confession. If you could pull your billers aside, maybe you are a biller, and if you could get them to feel safe enough to tell you what's really going on, they would tell you that they don't have time to call all the past due accounts. It's not even close. Unless you're just a super duper small company and you've only got 10, 20, maybe 30 accounts past due a month, and even that can be an overload to some folks. They're really not making as many calls as they would like to, and oftentimes they're not making calls at all. And again, it's not really their fault. So if you think about all the accounts past due, whether it's 10 accounts a month or it's 10,000 a month, we've seen every single situation. When you take a look at that list, they will only get around to making so many phone calls. If you're really generous, we'll say 40%, maybe even half of the phone calls. When you look at the calls they actually make, you'd be surprised to find that probably 70% or more are actually just going to voicemail. If you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. A lot of times, most of the time, they're calling during the day. Well, guess where people are? They're at work, right? And of course, if you do get them on the phone, they're not ready to talk about their dental bill or their plumbing bill whatever kind of company you work for. And most of the time they'll just let it go to voicemail. And so you're paying human beings to leave voicemails is what it comes down to. So really, and of course, even if they did call everybody on the list, they can't follow up after that. They don't have time to make multiple frequent prompts in kind of this competition for getting paid. Of course, it's not their fault. Of course, if you're a biller, you know this very well. I'm not trying to get you in trouble with your boss. You are. I know how busy you are. I talk to billers and administrators every day. These folks are overloaded, and it seems like every task that comes up, just, hey, we'll have Susan do that. Like Susan's not already busy, and so it's really not their fault. If you're the boss, don't blame your in-house team. They really are doing all they can. They simply don't have enough time to chase people down. So the bad news is that customers who would have paid, maybe with just a handful of reminder nudges of some kind, they end up getting turned over to hardball collections, which both, of course, upsets them and, of course, results in you paying 30% of your revenues, which is probably more than you're making. So that hurts. Well, when you go back and look at that two-stage approach again, you got the first stage, which is in-house collections, and then you have the second stage, which is hardball. And so let me poke some holes in that idea. The dirty little secret, if you've never heard about this or if you've never thought about it, the dirty little secret in the percentage-based collections world, the reason they're only bringing in 5, 10, 15, maybe 20%, watch this. Same thing. They don't have enough time to call everybody. It's not even close, okay? So if you think about this, and maybe you don't know this either, but the average balance turned over to a collection agency is about $1,443. I'm sorry, I think I said that wrong. It's $1,543. $1,543. Now I want you to stop and think about that for a moment. Let's say you and I are collectors. Okay, let's say we showed up to work this morning and hundreds and hundreds of accounts came into the agency this morning, and hundreds are going to come in tomorrow. And you're given a list of, I don't know, 5, 10, 15 pages of folks to call, and I'm given 5, 10, 15 pages of different folks to call. And let's say you're going to take home 10% of whatever you collect. Okay, same with me. And there's no way, by the way, you can call more than about 100 people a day and actually have any kind of meaningful conversations with them. And so you're looking through all these accounts you've got. You know it's way more than you'll ever be able to deal with. And so you've got some $50 balances, a page or two of $100 balances, page or two of $500 balances, another page or two of $5,000 balances, and $15,000 logistics bills and construction bills and surgery bills. Let me ask you a question. Who are you going to start calling first? The $50 accounts or the $2,000 accounts or the $20,000 accounts? Remember, you're going to take home 10%. Well, you got it. You're going to get the biggest accounts. Well, that's exactly what they do. So your accounts, when they come into your agency, they're getting cherry-picked. They're looking for the bigger balances, the younger balances. It's called skimming in their industry. It's perfectly normal. Every single agency does it. Yes, yours too. I hope you're not super duper good buddies with your collection rep, because whether he tells you the truth or not, they all are doing this. So again, if you look at the math here, the kind of what I call the ridiculous math, if you look at all the money turned over, only so many are getting called, and it turns out to be somewhere between about 20 to 30% if they're honest with you and they tell you the truth. So out of that 25% that they call, they're going to bring in about a third of that typically, and then of course they want a big third of whatever they collect. Okay, and again, it's not their fault. I swear it's not their fault. They're good people. They're a great industry. They bring in a lot of money. They save our economy a lot of money. I'm just exposing what a lot of people don't know. But let's do some real math. Let's put some real numbers to it, okay? Let's say you turn over $10,000 to your collection agency in any given month or year, and let's say they bring in 10%, which is very generous. They're going to bring in about $1,000, okay? Well, then they're going to want a third of that, and so it's $300 they keep. You keep about $670. $670, that's all. So think about that for a moment. You gave them $10,000 of products and services that you have busted your tail to deliver and give good customer service and marketing and paying payroll and all that stuff, and they brought in a measly $670. That hardly makes any business sense to me, especially after I show you what I show you here in a moment, where typically we're bringing in somewhere between about 3 to 5 times as much money, and we do it for a fraction of the cost. So that was all. I just wanted to poke some holes in what we call the two-stage approach, because your in-house team, as busy as they are, they don't have enough time to make all the calls. When you turn it over to an agency, you hope they would, but it's the same thing. They're just cherry-picking the balances. So the bad news is you're writing off far too many past due dollars each year who have literally never been contacted by your billers or your agency even once. All they got were a couple of bills. I don't know how big that number is to you, but that should be a lot of money, and that's kind of the double ouch. So if you don't mind, let me show you a couple of strategies, and we've got a lot of them. But let me just focus on 2 strategies real quick that should be kind of a blinding flash of the obvious to you, but possibly even revolutionary. The first one is what we call just the appreciation. The age of accounts is more critical than you thought. Let me show you how this chart works. So first of all, this is from the Department of Commerce. And what you're seeing here down at the bottom, you got 30, 60, 90 days, all the way out to a year. And then on the vertical axis, you got how much money is going to be brought in. So your industry may be a slightly different, but when you combine them all together, this is what you see. Most of the money's coming in the first 30 to 60 days, thankfully, right? That's where all your bills are getting paid. And then you see what's happening. The longer and longer you wait to get serious, the less likely you'll ever see a dime. Look at the drop here. It's dropping 10% every single month. That's money that will never come in. It's uncollectible now, no matter what you do, we do, or anybody else. By the way, each one of these bars goes all the way up to 100%. Okay, so look at this. Let's look at the 5-month mark here, 150 days. So let's say that's your $10,000 right there. Okay, only so much of that money can even be brought in simply because you're bumping up against a psychological principle that the further away you get from a product or service delivered, the less valuable it is in the mind of the customer. Did you catch that? The further away you get from a product or service delivered, the less valuable it is in the mind of the customer. So, for instance, right now, as I'm doing this recording, it's August. So let's say a dentist did a root canal, or a plumber came by and fixed my sink 6 months ago. Man, I am singing their praises. I'm so grateful for them. For whatever reason, some things have come up and I just haven't paid them yet. Well, it's 6 months now. I get their bill. I've got some extra money, and I'm thinking, gosh, should I pay them, or should I pay this? Let's think. This month is school supplies. This month is school uniforms. Excuse me. So what do you think? What do you think I'm going to pay? The urgent need of today, or something that somebody did for me 6 months ago? That's the whole big deal with age. So the whole big point here is you've got to start earlier. You've got to escalate your accounts earlier and not hold on to them as long. The next big idea is what we call the 4 payers. That is, there's 4 kinds of payers, and there's 4 different stimuli to get each one to pay their bill. Let's see if this makes sense to you. And you can find yourself and probably all kinds of clients you have on here as well. But bucket number 1 is what we call the faithful. We love these guys. Just send them a bill. Matter of fact, they might even come in with money. We love these folks, and that's probably 50 to 70% of your receivables right there. They're paying payroll for you. They're paying your light bills. We love those guys. There's no problems at all. Bucket number 2 is what you might call the undisciplined, or maybe the messy. That is, you can just chalk it off their personality. You love them to death. They've been coming to you for years. And frankly, they're probably going to pay eventually. We're just not sure when. Because it could be the 2nd month, the 3rd month, the 6th month. We're just not sure. You don't want to turn little Miss Jones over to a collection agency or anything yet. She just needs some nudges, some friendly, hey, we appreciate your business, but it's time to get the show on the road kind of call. So it's just a personality thing. Just give her some nudges. Thirdly, you've got what you might call the disrespectful or maybe the stubborn, maybe. And these people got all your letters, they got your phone calls, they got your bills. They just don't really care. They've been putting your bill at the bottom of the second stack of bills. So they're going to pay you before they're basically going to pay everybody before they pay you. That is, they're going to pay the lawnmower, the chiropractor, the dentist, and you are the last one on the list. And so we've learned a long time ago, this isn't a personality issue. Oddly enough, it's actually not even a money issue, because a lot of times when people can't pay, they'll at least call you and tell you. This is actually a respect issue. That's why we call it disrespectful. And so we've realized that the only way to reestablish respect for them and to get them actually to respond is to assign consequences. That is, we need to bring in a third party. It can't be you anymore. They need to hear those magic words, licensed collection agency, or from the law offices of. And if you've ever gotten a letter like that, it stops you dead in your tracks. It stands out from the rest of the mail. So there you go. So the faithful need a bill. The messy need reminders. The disrespectful need third-party impact. And then you got this last group. We'll call them thieves. You might have more colorful terms around there. Maybe just tough guys, or professional debtors, or gosh, who knows what you might call them. I'll just call them thieves if you don't mind. And these are basically people that now look, if you want to write people off, if you want to give them free services, that's completely up to you. But thieves are people who can pay. They're just not. They simply don't care. They don't care what they've signed. They don't care what they've promised. In their minds, they're just completely checked out that any of it has any bearing on them. By the way, you can still get money from these. It's just you got to send the tough guys after them. You got to actually get a call from a live collector or a lawyer, something like that. Does that make sense? That there's 4 kinds of payers, and therefore there's 4 different stimuli to get each kind to actually pay their bill? When you combine those 2 things, the age of accounts, and you look at and you kind of look at needing a toolbox of different stimuli, I cannot tell you how this will revolutionize your AR. Well, if you don't mind, what if I said at this point, do you know that there's an app for all this? Let me show you one of these apps. It's called Accelerator, and I think you'll be fascinated by this. Accelerator is basically a series of friendly first-party reminders that are sent out each week. That is to say, they think it's you. They think it's Susan. They think it's your biller. They think it came right out of your system. They think this is you. So this is for, we don't do billing, so keep sending bills however you do. This is for that second bucket that, again, need those friendly reminders. So basically it's used when you want your money faster, but you don't want to have to send your billers to chase people down. The strategy is we want to create a sense of urgency by playing the, quote, squeaky wheel, for those personalities that need such reminders to get paid faster, right? So it's nothing magic. It's basically a series of letters and phone calls that come out with your caller ID. It's an automated call, and the letters are have your address on them. So you literally think this is coming out of your billing system. All the contacts that seem to be coming from you. Watch this. All the money goes back to you. All the phone calls go back to you. Because, again, you have the relationship, right? And so we're just doing the one thing your billers don't want to do, which is the outbound chasing work. You control the entire process with a click. As a matter of fact, we actually interface with a lot of the most popular softwares in every industry. So just ask your rep if we work with your particular software. Now, this is really neat. We do everything on a flat fee basis of about $5, $10, $15 an account, really just depending on your volume. And so, again, you can talk to your rep about figuring out your volume. But think about that now. You send a bill, and if they pay, great. If they don't pay, you turn on Accelerator, and now they just get a series of friendly reminders. Your team is completely freed up from having to chase people down. You don't mess with it anymore. Not until you have a check on your desk or somebody's calling in saying, hi, I would like to talk about my account. It's that simple. And now you've only got inbound calls. Excuse me. Well, so if they don't pay at this point, and by the way, let me show you what these look like real quick. Here's what the letter looks like. Very professional layout. At the top of the letter, you'll see there it's got your address, their address, how much they owe. Super friendly language. It basically says, "Dear Joe Smith, we thank you. We sincerely appreciate your business. Trust you're satisfied. Unfortunately, the above referenced account is now past due. Requires your attention. Please remit your payment with a lower voucher. If there's an error, please contact us as soon as possible." You see that? They think it's you. It's got your address, your phone number. All the money comes to you. The vouchers come to you. They think this is you the whole time. I'm going to show you some real results here in just a moment. You can expect anywhere from about 40 to all the way up to 90% of your money coming in with just these. Really depends on which age, industry you're in and at what age you use this account. But if you use it the way we suggest, typically around the 30-day mark after they've ignored that first bill. Some industries want to wait till 60 days. But if you'll use us super early in the process, you would be amazed by how much more money is coming in that second crucial month, and you hardly touched it at all. So let me show you the next tool in line. So think about this now. If they have ignored your first bill and they've ignored your second bill, they ignored 5 reminders that they thought were you. Well, now we've weeded out all the good-intentioned, well-meaning people who are planning on paying you, and all we have now are the disrespectful. So we need to turn on what we call profit recovery. Little change here. 2 things are going to change. So we call this diplomatic third-party soft collections. We're going to get something about once a week. This is used when first-party reminders are being ignored, and you want to reestablish respect for the bill, but you don't want to use the hardball tactics, and you don't want to pay a percentage just yet. Okay? So the big idea here is let's use third-party impact to create a sense of urgency and reestablish respect to get paid faster. Notice again, it's just calls and letters. Again, there's nothing magic about the medium, calls and letters. What's magic is what we're doing and saying. So 2 big things change here. One is we're doing the one thing you can't say, which is to say licensed collection agency. Again, have you ever gotten a collection letter in the mail, you personally? If you have, I bet it stood out from the rest of the mail that day. If you've never received a letter like this in the mail, then I bet you if you got one today after this conversation, I bet you would stand out from the rest of the mail. That is, guys, this game is entirely psychological. Receivables in psychology. You really can't force anybody to pay you. So this game is really all about barking, not biting. So the big change here is accelerator is first-party contacts. Profit recovery is third-party contacts. It's coming from an agency. The next big thing is we're going to start very friendly. It's a courtesy notice. I'll show it to you in a moment. And but the second letter gets a little tougher. The third one gets a little tougher. The fourth one gets a little tougher. And so we're escalating the tone. Why? Why? Well, because we're reestablishing, we're having to uproot the disrespect and reestablish respect for the practice. That is, we're assigning consequences to not paying. So again, now contacts are coming from us. This is different than your agency. All money and all calls are still coming back to you so that you keep the relationship. Now, again, think about that. If you're using an agency now or a lawyer, think about what they're doing and saying. They're basically getting between you and your patient, you and your tenant, you and your customer, whatever industry you're in, and they're basically saying, no, you got to talk to us. They're mad at you, and so you're going to have to deal with us. So don't call Dr. Jones. You have to deal with, they're alienating you. So, and with us, we're trying to reverse all that. So we're just want to get behind them and drive them back to you so that you keep the relationship, you take the money. And by the way, it's interesting that you get the money. Have you ever wondered if your collection agency is actually paying you all the money they bring in? Well, you don't have to with profit recovery because, again, all the money comes to you. It doesn't pass through us at all. Again, it's a flat fee of somewhere between $5, $10, $15 an account. Once you turn this on, you don't mess with it until you have a check on your desk or a phone call coming in. These letters and phone calls, again, very professional setup. It basically shows that it's coming from Transworld. Shows the balance, the debtor's name. Pretty diplomatic language here. It's a courtesy notice. Now watch, this is so interesting the way we word this. Our clients requested that we contact you regarding the above referenced account. We realize this amount could be an oversight on your part. Now give me a break, right? We all know it's not an oversight on their part. But we learned a long time ago that you can gather more bees with honey than vinegar. And if you'll just stay nice about it, this doesn't upset anybody. They really appreciate the fact that they can save face, they can call in, oh, I'm so sorry, I never got your bill, they'll tell you. Whatever. Well, listen, let's get back to the issue at hand. You owe $200, right? And so you just get back to the issue at hand and you collect your money. Again, notice down here, all the money is it comes into your address. The phone number is yours. But this time, it's coming from Transworld. We even have legal language down here for those who need to see something like that. The next one gets a little tougher. The next one gets a little tougher. Well, okay, so let's back up in the system here. So send bills out to everybody. The faithful will pay with a bill. The next month, send out Accelerator. They're going to get 5 reminders in the second month from day 30 to day 60. They're going to get 5 reminders, something about every single week. Then they get about a 2-week kind of final warning type period. And then at about 45 days from when they got that first bill, they're going to start getting profit recovery contacts from a third party that start nice, then they escalate. That's about a 60-day process. So now we're sitting at about 140, 150 days. So right at about 5 months. And again, they've gotten multiple warnings here. And if they mean well, they would have called in. If they're just broke, they would have called in and told you. If they wanted to set up a pay plan, they would have called in. Or they would have paid something. If they have ignored all of that, bills, reminders, even collection demands, well, now it's time to take it to that next level, because now we've got thieves on our hands. And so they need what we call live collections or verbal collections. So this is what we call third-party hard collections. It's used when all attempts to collect the debt have failed, but the money still can and needs to be recovered. The big strategy is pursue the debt with live professional collectors who are educated on their ability to pay and how to make that happen the best. So now we're doing skip tracing to find out where they run off to if they're trying to kind of disappear off the grid. We're doing asset discovery, which is really neat, this is where we've got them on the phone and they're complaining, giving the same sob story they gave to everybody else. You know, my girlfriend just left me, my catfish died, my car's in a wreck, and they're giving every reason to not pay the bill. And we just say, you know, Mr. Thompson, we're really sorry that you're going through all that. I can see here on my screen that you've got these 3 credit cards. You've got an open balance, open credit of about $20,000. You only owe Dr. Jones $600. Let's just use this Visa right here that ends in 1634. So it's a tad creepy, but it's so effective. It really just cuts through all the junk they try to throw at us and just say, listen, we know you've got the money. We saw that you bought a TV last week. Let's just do this. Let's just do this. Anyways, if we need to and it's a larger balance of several $1,000s and you want to go to court, it's possible that we could take that to the litigation phase. So again, we're still contacting them as a licensed collection agency, like the typical agency. All the money comes back to us now. All the calls come back to us. We need to be doing all the negotiating at this point. But this is basically a free service unless we collect, and then it's a 50-50 split. It's a bit more expensive than the typical agency because the typical agency will charge 30% because they want all the low-hanging fruit. But they don't actually chase the hard stuff. This is really only for the hard stuff. And it's just frankly unlikely that we'll collect anything. And so if you get any money out of it, just kind of be happy. We tend to bring in about 20% at this point. So kind of the big idea here is it 50% of something better than all of nothing? So to take a step back and look at what we call the 4-stage escalated approach to collections. And you compare that to just the 2-stage approach of sending a couple bills, making a call or two, and then throwing them over to the dogs. What do you think about this? It's a 4-stage escalated approach. You send a bill yourself. Then you turn on accelerator, and you don't have to. It's a la carte. If your billers want to make calls, then fine, they can make the calls. But we tend to just be able to do it cheaper, faster, and get better results, as well as we free up your staff. Then next turns on, you send demands, collection demands from a third party, which is called profit recovery. This, again, you're paying a flat fee. And when you just say the word licensed collection agency, you would be amazed by how many people who haven't paid now pay. Again, it's somewhere between 30 to 70% of the people who haven't paid will now pay just by saying those three magic words. You can, depending on which agency, which industry you're in and what age you use us. And then lastly, for the few remaining accounts that actually go there, you've got live collections if you want to use that tool. So I've got to ask, isn't automation beautiful? Imagine if you could just automate all this. Your billing actually might be automated right now. Well, the question is, why wouldn't you automate everything else? If you think about the bigger competition here, every industry is clamoring for their money, except for a few. Medical, they don't clamor for their money. Maybe your industry doesn't clamor. Maybe there are some bigger players that have a well-staffed, well-oiled machine, and they're dinging. There's, I don't know about you, but my AT&T bill, if I miss it, if I miss my utilities bill, I'm getting dinged and emailed and text, and people are clamoring for that extra money that gets paid in the second stack. How about you? How about you join the competition? You can do it if you automate it. I've also got to ask, how about this idea of having a toolbox of various stimuli to use with different kinds of payers? So what are your thoughts? Is this something you'd like to try out? Is this something you like? If it's something you'd like to try out, we would love to talk to you more. You got any questions? Please call me. Please call the rep that sent you this, and we would love to figure out what your discount is going to be and let you test this thing out, kick the tires, and let's see how we do over the next 6 months to a year for you, and see if this is something you want to use for the long term. Hey, I really appreciate your time. Bless you guys.